Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Hello, my next level friends. Sergio Gomez here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Artist Next Level podcast. This is the summer season, and it's a great time to also catch up on any episode that you have missed in the past. Check out our archive in iTunes or Google Play or at our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find now over 100 episodes with interviews, professional and business advice, wellness advice as well, and a lot of other great resources for your art career. In today's episode, I'm interviewing Tim and Suzanne Smith, two amazing people I had a chance to work with a couple years ago when I co-curated an exhibition with Didi Menendez at their gallery during the Art Basel Miami, and it was such an honor to work with them. I had a great experience, and today we're sharing their story. Tim and Suzanne Smith are a power couple whose career path took them from the New York art scene to open a successful art gallery in the Miami area. Sirona Fine Art Gallery is a grand showcase for artists who embrace classic academic structure and technique, yet have an understanding and facility within the modernist landscape in which their work is viewed. Art can appeal to the senses, the emotions, and the intellect equally or separately, as long as it connects. Creators who skillfully present their ideas and personalities, constructed with a masterly hand, these are the artists Sirona Fine Art likes to represent. And I'm really happy to share with you the story of Tim and Suzanne Smith. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Suzanne. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Sergio.
It's really, really great to have you both here at the Artist Next Level podcast. Thank you so much for being here. What's the temperature for you right now there in the Miami area?
90s, right? Early.
It's in the 80s. It's
raining.
Torrential rains.
But it's already in the 90s.
Well, that's a good time of the year, and I know beautiful Florida, beautiful Miami area. It's always nice to go and visit. And this podcast episode is really special for me as well because I had the opportunity to meet both of you in person last year during the show Chévere that I had a chance to curate with Didi Menendez. And both of you were so gracious, so hardworking to work with us, to work with all the artists. We had a great opening reception, and I think the show went really well. And I'm just really stoked to be talking to you guys today and share your story because you have quite a great story. Your space is beautiful, and both of you work together in this endeavor, so that's pretty awesome.
Thank you. It was a great show that you organized, and what was more amazing is how many of the artists came to actually be a part of the show. This is the first time we had a panel discussion of the artist's work for the people who came to see it.
And it was the show that you curated with Didi Menendez was our first national magazine cover on Fine Art Connoisseur for December of 2016. So as a new gallery that was only 3 years old, that was very exciting for us. The cover piece was Erin Anderson's, and it was an amazing piece, and we were able to sell 3 pieces of hers through the gallery based on that one piece that you guys chose. So it was a great win all the way around for everybody.
Yeah, I think so. And it was really awesome to be there during the opening because Didi and I work with a lot of artists that we have worked, some of them for the first time, and to be able to meet them in person as well, many of them who made the trip, that was pretty cool. It was a great energy throughout the whole night, and that was pretty amazing. And for this, I think we also have to... personally, I want to thank also Didi Menendez because she puts a lot of work on making these things happen through also her magazine and everything that she's doing. We really love Didi, and we want to also send her a greeting here through this podcast today and congratulate her for all the work that she does.
Yes.
Didi is a very special person. I've been in gallery work a long time, and there's a separateness to a lot of what happens in the gallery world, where you're working on one show at a time, and you're thinking in terms of making it a success, financially for the artist and the gallery both. But what Dee Dee does is a little more, has more about aesthetics. And that's why we all got into art to begin with. It's just our love of doing really good things. It can get lost sometimes in the day-to-day business of running a gallery. And even being a producing artist, you sometimes can lose focus of the fact that we all got into this because we like to make beautiful things. And so Dee Dee is this sort of outlier, this other focus that she brings into these shows where it's really about aesthetics and a personal vision.
That's correct, and we are so excited to be working with her and to work. We have the opportunity to work with both of you. So, in this podcast today, I want to talk a little bit about your story. You mentioned that the gallery is 3 years old, and maybe take us a little bit back in time. Why did you open the gallery, and when did both of you started working together on this?
I went to School of Visual Arts and worked in many galleries over the years. So that's where I was based. I was working part-time in galleries even in the 80s when I was going to art school. And I became an illustrator, and I was working daytime in galleries and doing my illustration at night and weekends. And I did that for many years in New York. We had a chance to, one of my collectors, one of my clients in New York had this huge space in Florida, and he backed us to create a gallery from scratch. There was just bare, empty walls. So all the artists, the identity of the gallery, the physical space of the gallery was all created all new in 2013. Yeah.
Wow. And maybe Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about you and working with? Did you came along working with Tim right away into the gallery, or how did that happen?
Right. No, I mean, gallery business has always been part of our lives, even though I wasn't directly involved with it and had not worked with a gallery before. I also went to art school. I was a creative director. I was in publishing in New York that's what I moved to New York to do, and was there for just over 20 years when we left. And there was this really interesting opportunity because, so much of the PR, the marketing, I've worked in marketing departments, the identity, the logo, the catalogs, the ads, our social media presence, all of that. As a gallery, if you're not skilled in that, you have to go outside the gallery. So Tim and I working together, I handle a lot more of that. And that direction, that need that the gallery has. And so when we decided to do this together, there was a nice opportunity for me to still be designing and creating but also work with artists, which was really exciting.
It was an interesting overlap of our backgrounds. I mean, Suzanne had worked for Time Life and Hearst and Condé Nast. I mean, the major publishing houses in New York. So she had a really nice career as an art director, but she hadn't worked full-time in a gallery situation. And in the same instance, since I had done illustration and studied it, I knew something about the way that ads work and that promotion. So we had a cross connection of our different skills. When we came down here, we worked just side by side on everything. We were painting the gallery and painting it, putting it together, designing the floor space, the desks. Everything was built from scratch, and we just it was a side by side effort.
Was it an idea that started with one of you and then took time to land, or was it something that kind of both of you agreed right away and said, let's do this together?
It was before I agreed to take on a contract to create the gallery. My stipulation was that I have to hire my wife to come in and work with me because for practical reasons, even in the gallery sense, because I knew I needed someone to help me do designs for ads and help me do the catalogs in New York and helped me do promotions and things like that. In New York, we always had someone doing that. We had someone we'd hired to do designs. We had someone to do promotions. And I knew that Suzanne could do all of those things. So it was an in-house team effort. And it was a really unusual circumstance. As far as what we were going to do, we were, like I say, we were hired by a backer to do this. We had very little time to put it together. We literally had about 6 weeks to take space and build out the walls. There was no lighting. There was no electricity or phone lines in here.
Wow.
I had no gallery. I had no artist at all. And we just jumped in. We started designing things, and we literally have told all of our artists, we're doing this crazy thing. We're leaving New York City to start a gallery, which was just about as counterintuitive as you can possibly imagine. Mm-hmm. But what we told all the people who wanted to work with us is, let's try this. Let's do something new. As South Florida is a place where the art scene, it has seen a lot of growth, and it'll be a new market for you, and let's just see what we can do. So it was on that kind of vague jumping out of a plane and figuring out how to land sort of thing that this all started.
That's fantastic. That's great. I love that story. So now tell me a little bit also about the name of the gallery and why the location that you chose. It's a beautiful space, I have to say. I don't know how much square footage you have, but it's quite large. You are right up to, you got the storefront view. And so tell us a little bit about that, the gallery itself. First, why this location that you selected for the gallery, the name of the gallery, and also what's the focus that you have for the gallery?
The name of the gallery was given to us by our backer, actually, and Sirona means brightest star. It's an old word.
Okay.
And we came up with a lot of different ideas and a lot of different names, but I thought that was a great name. The space, of course, was on property that the backer had. It's 8,300 square feet and about
5,000 for the gallery
about
space.
5,200, I think, is for the actual gallery space. And there's floor-to-ceiling windows across all one side, so we get this great Florida light with palm trees
Beautiful.
up front. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm used to the physical space of galleries is not as important as what's on the walls, and this was a very unusual situation where I had this tropical, lush place to put in a gallery space. So, like I say, when I came in, I had all this space. I had to make the decision on literally how to design the walls and the interior space. And as I looked around, I was thinking of how I should put all these interior walls in. And as I stood there, I came to the conclusion that I should design it so if you're standing in any one place, you can see almost the entire gallery. So right. I created a lot of walls on wheels that I can move around to suit each particular show. And with all the light coming in from the street and the ability to just stand and see, we usually have somewhere around 120 to 160 pieces of art out at any one time. So to be able to see all that at once I think is kind of a unique experience, and certainly one I wasn't able to have in New York with the space requirements that you have there.
Right, so limited as well, yeah. So did you pick a specific genre of work to focus on with the gallery?
That was another decision to be made because I didn't have a lot of guidelines.
But the backer's aesthetic, I do think, Tim had sold him work, and he definitely had some opinions, but I think your aesthetic and his somehow meshed. But it was important that Tim and I have very similar taste in art, not always the same, but I think that that was very important to Tim. If we were going to do this, if we were going to pull ourselves out of the top art market in the United States and come
Right.
down to Florida between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, even though the flavor down here is very different, it was very important for Tim to be able to work with artists that he had relationships with. And I mean, you would describe the thread that kind of even though so many of the artists work in very different styles, most of the work is.
It fits comfortably under contemporary representational, not necessarily realistic, but representational art. And I did have to kind of make the decision on having work that was instantly, viably commercial work. And that's a decision all gallerists have to make. I need to be able to pay the bills. And right from the start, I made the choice to have work that I thought just had beautiful aspects to it, just very work of high skill, but work that also had a personality to it. So you wouldn't look at this landscape and go, I can't tell this artist from that artist.
Right.
Even beautifully produced, it doesn't matter, contemporary art, realistic art, there are highly skilled examples of all of those that are sometimes indistinguishable from others. It's like the skill has been so much of the attention that the personality is lost. And so I think if you look at all of our artists, it's one of the reasons people come in and say, this is so eclectic. And it's not really that eclectic. It's all representational art. But what they're seeing, if I have 40 different artists up, they're looking at 40 different people. They're not looking at 40 lush landscapes. They're looking at 40 different people doing really good personal work.
Right. Absolutely. It was really refreshing for me before actually we started working with you in the Chevrolet show last year to hear from other artists who had already been working with you in the past, having them to say really great things about both of you and how you appreciate how you work closely with the artists. And that is very refreshing to hear also from a gallery perspective. Something that I'm glad you mentioned is, as a gallery, you have to think about many things. It's not just what's hanging on the wall, but how you're going to pay the bills, right? Each month as they continue to come in. And how was it, or I should say, how difficult was it for you to get started on a new city where you didn't know anybody and start from scratch? You left New York, you went to Miami area, and, kind of out of nowhere, in just a matter of weeks, start a gallery. What was it like for you to gather the people around, to get a collector base, to take this baby to the next step?
You ever seen those movies where someone's walking along the sidewalk and a car pulls up alongside of them and all of a sudden they have a hood thrown over them and they're bound and gagged and put in the trunk, and then sometime later they wake up and they have no idea where they are?
Yeah, that's right.
It was like that.
Yeah.
It was just like that, except for both of you, right, in one trunk.
Except for
But the thing is that Tim had been. It was really unique because Tim himself had been, supported himself in New York for many years on his own as an artist. So he understood that side of it. He also had spent so many years in the gallery business working with so many artists. So it was very easy to talk to a group of people already that we had established relationships with and get them to take a chance. I mean, that's all you can do, is you can take a chance. And yeah, I mean, Tim's collectors that he knew in New York, I mean, that's the big thing. It's always like, do you take them with you? Can you have them? Will they buy from you down here? Well, we've actually, oddly enough, I mean, we've sold to people that Tim has sold to in New York, but they had no idea that Tim was down here. It was very strange.
Really?
With an artist by the name of Samantha French. This couple came in, there's a big New York, Miami connection. They have a property here that they come to. Yeah. The name, they came in, the name sounded so familiar to Tim. I had spoken with them, then Tim spoke to them. Turns out they had bought work from Tim in New York almost 4 years ago. I mean, it was
how cool is that?
strange situation, but your collector base is really, I think anybody, even, I mean, you hear all these crazy stories about people taking their, a collector's list with them when they leave a gallery and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, that didn't happen down here. I mean, we started exactly like you said, we started from nothing and started building it up because, if you work for a gallery for so many years, you can saturate your collectors with a certain artist's work. You're constantly, that's the thing that I think keeps the lifeblood flowing through a gallery, is that having a set base of collectors, they may be with you for a few years, and then they move on to something else. And so you've got to constantly be teasing those people out, and it's difficult. People of a certain means, collectors who can afford work. I mean, they're busy people. They're not trolling galleries. They're flying all over the world and they're working. And so collector base, getting an established collector base, I think is very tough. We've been very fortunate to meet a couple of really nice collectors down here who have bought not just one artist's work, but a few of our artists' work. So that's really, it's like they like what you're doing, they like what they see, and they get excited when you get a new show in. It's any gallery's dream to have a handful or a dozen people like that. You don't need 120 people. You need a small amount of people that are going to, buy work from you and continue to buy work from you. It's they're hard to tease out. I think any gallery owner will tell you, even any consultant will tell you, teasing out collectors, it's just hard. It's a tough business. It's the same for artists as well,
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned something that's important too, the way life is lived today, where everybody is running, collectors are running, like I said, they're not just strolling around galleries, but they're busy people many times running their own businesses and things like that. And reaching out to them, it's not that easy, as you mentioned. How does the online marketing has been part of your gallery, or how important is that for you? And have you seen a change in recent years on how you approach people now with more accessibility to internet and to the resources and the mobile devices and things like that, or online platforms? How is that working for you, or what has been your experience?
I can tell you that back in 2007, 2006, they were predicting the demise of brick and mortar galleries. I mean, the person I was working for at the time, I was working at Excel Galleries, and they were very worried about this for all sorts of reasons. A lot of people saw the internet as this tsunami was going to come in and sweep away all the brick and mortars, but it's, I always have always been part of this thing that happens where people walk in and there are either people who connect with the public or don't, and that's where your whole success of this, of a gallery situation works. In reality, as online publishing, like magazines, thought that they could do online publishing as well, and that was going to help them move into this new world where the internet is taking over everything. The reality of it is, it's a small difference, but it's instead of like a tsunami, it's more like
climate change.
It's more like
Miami will be underwater in 100 years, but it's like a slow creep of the water coming. But it's like
Miami will be underwater 400 years. In 400 years, there won't be any brick and mortar. But but the answer for that is that it has some effect on our presence. And even now, the last gallery I worked for instance, was Arcadia. I was one of the directors of one of their galleries, and a great gallery. They would see occasional sales here and there, and sometimes it would be like 6-figure sales occasionally from things that people never had seen. But then again, it was from some very rare people who had the money to spend on it, and they were already familiar with the artist. So it's complicated. The same thing can happen as artists begin to get some sort of a following and people familiar with the work. They can project what that finished piece looks like from looking at a JPEG online, but still it's not like seeing the original. So it's still, the online presence is still just a smaller factor in running a gallery. Your physical space is still very important into the overall identity of a gallery.
I think if you define it in terms, I mean, and maybe certain artists and wouldn't like me to compare it to this, but this is still a retail environment. When you have a brick and mortar, it is, the purpose of it, you're bringing product to, a community or and that is still, it still is a retail environment, and you'd be living under a rock if you didn't, all of these things that you're hearing of these big box stores closing down. I mean, it affects small businesses too. And the thing I think that's happened, I mean, from a marketing and PR standpoint, there's a couple of things that Tim and I have noticed. I mean, for sure, email. People are not emailing anybody anymore. I mean, if you have these lists, look at your analytics. So much. You may have a really good list that you've curated yourself, and you have direct contact. People are just overwhelmed with email. A lot of times they don't answer it, they ignore it. I mean, you text people. There are certain things that and people don't like to talk on the phone, but you know what? If you have a small base of collectors that buy from you, call them on the phone. Don't ever be afraid. If you've made contact, I think as an artist or even as a gallery, we still do printed catalogs. We have sold work to collectors because we've spent a couple $1,000s on a catalog, and maybe we've only made 1 or 2 sales that way, but you know what? It paid for the catalogs. I mean, direct mail is something that you can't. For so long, everyone said, "Oh, that's dead. Don't spend your money on that." It's the same with any of this, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, your website, your blogs. You feel like you do have to do all of this, but because you never know what's going to work. But, also, brick and mortar, having a gallery, having gallery representation, having the work on the wall, having that direct connection with people is very important. It's so fractured now. It's not just one, there's not just one solution, which is, I think, overwhelming to an artist who's a producer. They're the only producer who can make this work. And then they have to do all of these other things, when they really need to be painting for 8 to 10 hours a day. It's hard. We've done a lot of different things, but I think some of the older things too, you can't discount the fact of getting on the phone, consistency, texting people if they don't want to, if you're not getting through to email, text them if you have their number. I mean, there's just certain things like that are really helpful. You can't just assume that everybody's opening an email or following. Facebook, we're in a swipe mentality. If someone doesn't get on Facebook, but maybe once every 2 weeks, they've missed everything that you've posted unless they happen to follow you. It just doesn't, it's a lot. It's a lot for anyone in a gallery too.
Yeah, and it's Facebook is so, I mean, we use Facebook for advertising and connections, but it's so ephemeral. I mean, if you got a post that an asteroid's going to hit the Earth on Tuesday, and then right after that was a cute fuzzy kitten video, you would still like, oh, a fuzzy kitten video. I'll look at this. I'll think about I'll think about the asteroid next Tuesday. So it's or maybe I'll forget about it because the cute kitten video is so funny. So it's that's the ephemeral aspect of all social media, and why something like I say direct mail. It takes, if you get something in your mailbox and it's a postcard, you at least look at it for a second. If you or maybe you'll keep it on your desk for a day or two. Whereas now, because the inundation of emails, even galleries and people I'm really interested in, you have to look at it and click it and open it, and it's so much easier to go, oh my God, I've got 65 emails in the past couple of hours. Delete, and then so there's a lot of things that are missed as opposed to 5-6 years ago. it was much more reliable to do. Your emails would get answered, people would respond to them.
Exactly.
And, it's changing. That's changing.
Yeah. No, that you're absolutely right, and I'm glad that you kind of we moved into this topic because it is absolutely true, and these are things that artists we need to hear as well from your perspective. And there's nothing that's kind of more touching as a personal touch. When somebody writes a hand note, that they wrote with their hands and send it to a person. Just a few weeks ago, I got a nice small catalog from an artist that I've been following, and not only she sent me the catalog, but she sent me a note with it. Well, I kept that for a while, and I was showing it to even some people that were visiting me. And, if that had just come from an email, well, it probably had seen it for, 2 seconds and then it's gone, and just because we are all so bombarded by so many things all the time, 24/7. I just got back from Mexico. I was gone for a week, and although I was trying to, keep in touch and catch up through my phone, I have an inbox full of emails that I know I won't have time to read. I'm going to have to just go delete, and then just read the important stuff, as you mentioned, and how many good things, may have we miss on that. But that's the reality of life that we have,
Right.
And,
it's consistency. Yeah. It's consistency. And even above consistency, I think it's persistence. It's
persistence,
in a sales environment. I mean, you may have 50 people walk through your door. Yes. And maybe one of them you actually really connect with and are actually talking about sales with, but we talk to people all day long. When if we did our own analytics just for people walking in the door, I mean, the numbers are not necessarily in your favor, but persistence, have them come visit you. As an artist working on their own, set up studio visits. If someone has liked your Instagram post or your Facebook post, get them to like you never know. And and it is a lot of work, and I think it's very frustrating. It's a frustrating aspect for a lot of artists, the business end of it, but it's keeping that dialogue going, inviting them to an art walk that you're participating in and letting them know. And, a lot of artists are very good about newsletters and different things like that. But again, you have that new shiny thing mentality where they're like, oh, such and such artist is going to be so-and-so, and they might get 2 or 3 of your emails. And then after that, their attention's somewhere else. So you got to think of another way to get in touch with them.
Keep them engaged. Yeah.
Yeah. And keep your collectors engaged as far as like what you're working on, what they might, their input. They like to be, once people buy and invest in your work, I mean, they would like to see what you're doing. And, that's a way to, contact them again, discuss, your work with them.
Right. And no, thank you for that, Suzanne. I think that's awesome. Another question that probably artists will have is, how do they get in contact with the gallery? And maybe this, every gallery is different, but in your experience, how do you prefer to find artists for your gallery, for your shows? What are the procedures that artists need to follow when, if they want to be seen or heard by your gallery specifically?
I think every gallery I work for is slightly different, but I would say once again, persistence pays off. If it's something that's going to happen, a couple of postcards is all that's necessary. A couple of emails to make sure that maybe if you miss the first email, you won't miss the second or third email. But that's the best way. Artists who sometimes want to walk in and show you the work on their iPad or something like that have to understand that the day-to-day business is sometimes prohibitive for that. Like you may be thinking, I've got to pack out 3 things today, I've got to answer these emails, and you don't want to be dismissive of the people who come in. But what happens happens
time and time again over a week. You might get 10 people. I mean, I can honestly say that people know you're an art gallery. They come in and they want your attention right there. And they say, oh, I've got it on my iPad or I've got it on my phone. I want to show you.
It happens
all day long here. And we tell people all the time, we at least will consider, send us an email, maybe 3 to 5 JPEGs, because you know what? Then we have it. Even if I don't remember who the artist's name was, I will remember what it looks like. And we have a record of it. If you just come in and show me, you know,
Right.
you're gonna walk out the door and you're going to be, you know, it's really tough. And I think there's absolutely a sense of, you know, there has to be you have to be professional. This is your business, you know.
Right.
If you come in and you have sort of a, hey, you know, let me show you a couple of things, you know. I mean, it's just
It's also very hard to be, you know, you don't want to be indirect, but it's very hard when people are showing your stuff, things. They're very earnest about what they're doing, and it's not only not what you do, it's so horrifying. You really hope to go into a coma for the rest of the day so you can forget this terrible thing you just saw. It can be that bad. And what do you say to people? So I like to say, just send me a JPEG, send me an email, I'll answer you. And I do. I get email after email. I answer every single email.
Even if it's not right for us. I mean, that's
Right.
It doesn't matter. I mean, people, I just send an email and say, thank you, this is not the type of work that we represent. That's a very easy thing to do. I don't neglect anybody. And we're on Artsy and ArtNet, and we are magazines, so I get a lot of emails. It takes 10 seconds to go, thank you for submitting, this doesn't work for us. Because in all that, out of maybe 2,000 submissions, you see someone that's really fantastic. You know, so the person we have a show with right now, Irvin Rodriguez, called me out of the blue. And he's like, hey, I'm an artist, I'm in New York, I'd like to see things, and I know that he called me, and I was right in the middle of doing some things. Said, fine, I look at everything. Send me an email. Didn't think anything about it. He sent it to me, and I just thought he was fantastic. I called him back. But during that same day, I had a couple of those calls.
Right.
So we literally are talking about one out of every several thousand people.
And I do think it's important for artists to understand, like, there should be purpose behind you going to this specific gallery. It's like dating, you know, if you want to date a lot of people, you know, you can date a lot of people. Do you want quality or do you want quantity? And to just approach a gallery just because you want to approach a gallery, think about why you're approaching this gallery. Who are the artists that they represent? Do you like the work that they represent? Where is their location? Would you like to work with them? I mean, if you've been part of a juried show, that's a reason to go to a gallery that you really like. If you've gotten a grant, you kind of have to be your own advocate, and there needs to be purpose behind it. Not that just, you know, how do I get my work? This is the one thing that's so bad. People come in, how do I get my work into your gallery? And I was, you know, you're kind of taken aback, and you're thinking, you know, there's a way to subtly finesse that into a conversation if you're asking thoughtful questions with, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that there should be a reason why you're approaching a gallery, not just because you want to be in a gallery. Why do you want to be in this gallery?
Exactly.
Why do you want to be part of this, you know, with these artists? I mean, because many times when they come in, Tim will say, you know, after the 10th person who's come in, he'll say, well, is your works of similar quality to this? Do you see any abstract work here? Because that's not what we do. So, you know what I'm saying? There are a lot of artists, you need to be selective of who you're contacting and who you want to represent you. And you know what I mean? Because it opens up such a huge group and network to you if you become part of a gallery. We've watched that so many times. All of the artists, they connect with each other because of a gallery that they've shown with. It's like an instant connection for them to contact another artist or another gallery that might do contemporary representational work. I mean, but it has to be thoughtful. I think you have to think that through a little bit before you approach a gallery. Otherwise, you look a little unprepared and maybe a little unprofessional.
Right, which is something that the artist has to do beforehand, is the research, you know, doing research, diligence, and visiting the gallery, and, you know, go to openings, and before any kind of approach. I think that is always a good advice. Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah.
I think the best thing for artists to realize is something that I had to go through myself, going around and taking my portfolio around when I, you know, right out of art school or during art school even, to different magazines and just be prepared for mostly being rejected.
Right.
It's mostly rejection, and just be okay with that. You have to believe in your art. You have to listen to criticism, every criticism, even if it comes from someone who you think is uninformed and even unintelligent and whatever. You can get something if someone looks at that and they say, some guy who's a taxi driver driving a bus or whatever, and they look at this and go, I think you're pretty good, but this hand doesn't look like a hand. And I've had people come out off the street and say something like this, and I'm like, I'm looking at the overall paint quality and the composition. I think this is all good. And then someone off the street will come in. This happened in New York a number of times, and I'm like, oh, you're right. It doesn't look like a hand because he blew it. It's like, so it's as far as that. So listen to anything anyone says, process it, take what you can apply to yourself, throw out the rest. Don't be afraid to take any criticism as anything but an excuse to find some way to make your work stronger. And so you're going to go to gallery after gallery after gallery. And I worked in Chelsea for many years, center of the art world, and just be prepared if you go there, some of the rudest people at the front counter you'll ever meet in your life. And just be okay with it. Just be okay with it. You need to get your work out there. You need to find that person who wants you, and they're going to try to find the collector that wants you. So just be prepared for constant rejection. Don't worry about it. Reevaluate your work constantly, and just keep striving to be a better artist. It never ends. It never ends. You can always be better, and you always need to be changing.
And this idea that don't think that these rejections are personal, right? It's not a personal.
They are.
Well, some of them, but
sometimes they're very personal. I can tell you, one of the things that happened to me moving to New York is growing up outside of any kind of artist community, is I thought of it as this magical place of artists and great thinkers.
Yeah.
And then I was in, gallery, some very respected gallery situations, and the rudeness and prejudices were just as strong there as they are in any business. Some people that I worked for that came from backgrounds where they should know better, acted very terribly and towards clients and coworkers, but at the same time they could be just the opposite. They could be, in spite of their shortcomings and in spite of judging you and as a person, whether it's artists or coworkers or as collectors, they had other things that made up for them. They had reasons for being a top gallery in this tough city that made them who they were. So, yeah, they may reject you because of the way you look, your age, your ethnicity, whatever it is. You can be judged in that way, but you can't let that stop you. And you can. That's where I say any criticism comes your way, process it.
Right.
Does this person not like my art because I'm black, because I'm Hispanic, because I'm a woman? Or does he not like my art because it doesn't fit what they do? Or does he not like my art because it's weak in this area? Is there something they're seeing that I can make better?
And you might not always know exactly what is the reason.
Yes, and that's again, that goes back to what Tim was saying about taking criticism from different people. I mean, I think that one of the things that is so important one of the things that we've seen is this wonderful artist community that has been created with poets and artists. And while that's a very wonderful community for artists, and you need to listen to your collectors. They're the ones who are purchasing your work. If you get an opportunity to have a conversation with the collector, what is it about your work that they like? Chances are there might be something, like I keep using the thing, teasing out with people. I mean, even when we have people come in here, many people in the area where we are, sometimes they think we're a museum. They've not seen work like this. You get in some really great conversations with people who maybe have never even been in a gallery, But when you should never discount a collector's point of view, because they may have some insight for you. It's not always the gallery. You know what I mean? They're looking for something specific already. The ideal thing is it's not ideal for everyone. I mean, the creativity is a big part of it, but if it's your profession, you have to turn it in a way where you can monetize. And that's very valuable. If someone's going to take the time to have a conversation with you, even if it's not what you want to hear, if it's criticism, you have to learn how to pull something out of that you can maybe change your work. I don't know, like not changing your work, but you know what I'm saying? It's just collectors their opinions are very important. Did they like this color? Did they like this series of images? Did they like the fact that I introduced gold leaf? Do they like this format? I mean, it's not all about the sales, but in the end, it's your livelihood. And I think you can pull a lot from these one-on-one conversations that you sometimes have to pursue. You have to pursue these people. It's important.
Well, I think it's the process of listening with a filter with the correct filter that makes sense for each individual artist, depending on what is the path that they're looking for. And I think that's really what makes a good difference.
Yeah.
We've had plenty of conversations with artists like that, where maybe they're thinking about a different pricing structure, like what's moving, what's the price range that's moving, even something as simple as size. Or, if we've noticed that, certain people are commenting on this one piece, you have to have that, and asking your gallery or asking, like I said, collectors, gallery, even people that are just coming in here. We sometimes, we ask them what they think.
Right. Very cool. That's great advice both of you have provided. And I really want to thank you for that, because this podcast is about that too. It's the stories and the advice that we can give to our friends who are artists here listening to this podcast today. And I think everything that you have said is really good. It really provides some ground for thinking, and for the way we are approaching galleries, for the way we are looking and researching, and where we envision our careers to go in the future. I think all the points that you have given are really, really fabulous, and I want to thank you for that, taking the time in your day to give some of that feedback. So greatly appreciate it. And I would like to ask you too, if you can give us, some of the highlights of upcoming shows, or the show that's up right now, so our friends who are listening to this podcast can also go online and find out more information about that.
Well, right now we have just it's the end of the season here in Florida, and so we just have a number of works from past shows up. Okay. As far as what we have coming up, we have a couple things we're planning with artists we've worked for in the past. So we're just working on that at the moment. But we don't have any plans for any new artists. We have things that are in the work for artists that we've worked with for in the past, I think.
Yeah, due to the nature of the tourist season down here in Florida, there really is a season, and we usually gear up in November and December for the end of the year. During the summer, it's more of a collective where we pull work from the different shows, and then of course moving into next year.
We do have some ideas about new things we want to do at the gallery. We're working on that as well. And
fantastic.
If we are able to do those things, we'll put it out.
Shout them from the rooftops.
That's right.
But it's important. It's like, as galleries change too, as the art business has changed, not only for galleries, because when we talk, I think the thing is that when we talk about galleries, it's not always this inclusive thing. The art business has changed for artists too. I mean, we all have the same concerns, and we all have the same frustrations and different things. And I think what has been successful for a lot of galleries, it's giving people an experience. You're creating, like Tim and I we use different analogies to people, for people, and give them, you're creating an experience. It's just like the artist, an original piece. Nobody else owns this. You can't have this even if an artist were to create the same painting again, it's not you know what I mean? This idea of an original experience. And I think some of the galleries that we follow and we admire, they're doing these incredible group shows, they're doing workshops, they're creating their own communities, because that's what it has to be. I mean, I really think that that's one of the things that Tim and I, as we kind of move into this next year, working with artists, it's important to kind of create, not just relying on the fairs and your walk-in traffic and standard things, but thinking of events and working with artists and, creating experiences, like one-of-a-kind experiences, like the artists are creating one-of-a-kind original. There's value in that, and there's value in having an experience at a gallery. Or we loved having you moderated the panel that we had, and we always try to say something about the artists when we have them here at the gallery on the nights of their shows. But having a panel like that, we had so many people who came for the panel. They loved it. They want to hear from the artists. They don't run in that circle, so maybe they don't even know. They don't even know artists themselves. So a couple of our collectors came that night, and they really, really enjoyed it. It's it's a really nice treat to have something on that level.
It's something I've always wanted to do. When I worked for my other galleries in New York, we would have these openings. The artists would have spent 6 months to a year and a half on the show. The show opens. It's this swirl of, glasses of wine and scattered conversations throughout. But so many places I worked at, there was never a point where you just stopped everyone and you said something about the artist. And so whenever I've had the chance, and especially since I've had my own gallery down here, I always stop the proceedings at some point, say something about the artist, because all that time in the studio was just the artist and his being inside of his own head, being there, the solitude he has to create these things. It all comes to that night. And yes, these works live on that he's created, but that night of an opening should be a point where everyone shuts up for a second, stops with the casual talk, stops with the free wine, and turns around and looks at this person who had just dedicated himself day and night for months and months and even years at a time to make this work, and say, this is really special. This person did these really special things. Let's have a round of applause, and maybe say a few things about each piece even. So that's been very important to me as a gallerist. It's one of the reasons that we have the panel that we have with you.
That is fantastic. I love that. I love that the way you put it as well. And it's really refreshing to hear it from you, from someone who's running a successful gallery, and that is wonderful and to give, as you mentioned, to give the person who's coming to the show a context also into how to get to know the artist a little bit, the mind of the artist, the mind of the creator who is behind each of the works that's hanging in that gallery. That is pretty cool. And my friends, before we close for the session, I know you've given us quite a bit of time, and I know you have a busy day. But if you can tell us, where can we find you in social media, and also what's your website?
www, of course, as people say, sironafineart.com. We're also on Instagram, Sirona Fine Art. We are Facebook and Instagrammers.
Awesome.
And we, it's interesting. The tweeting thing, we're not on Twitter. The nature of tweeting is, to me, is more of it's a verbal, it's probably not the right way to put it. It's a verbal medium rather than a visual medium. So, but that's where they can find us socially. I think even more as people move, Instagram and Facebook are where people are even more so than the validation of having a website. I think, your website is hard, because I think people get a more robust idea of what we do looking at Facebook and Instagram.
And that's what I follow both of you as well. So we can stay connected. That is pretty awesome. Yeah. So again, I want to thank you for your time. This has been a fascinating conversation with both of you. And I want to congratulate you on the success you have so far. I know amazing things are coming in the future, and we'll be knowing more about them as the time goes by and as you announce them. And we are just so excited about that. I want to say thank you on behalf of many of the artists that worked with you during the Chevrolet exhibition that we just had with you in December during Art Basel. And it's just a great experience. We wish you the best for the future. Continue success, continue supporting artists. And that's just an awesome thing that you are doing. And we love that both of you are doing it together as well as a couple. Any last words before we close for today?
No, thank you so much, Sergio. We follow you too in Art Next Level, and you really are like a tireless champion for the arts. And we've just been so lucky to fall into this group where there's just such a strong community for these artists. Like, we really believe in all of them, and and we've established really great connections and friendships and working relationships with so many of these people. And we just think they're all so talented, and it's really like what you're doing is really incredible. It's for the love of what you're doing and you as an artist. And I think it's what you're offering to the artists is huge. It's huge. It's a huge consideration to take time out of your own busy schedule and your own exhibition schedule and what you do, and then trying to help them, further their careers. It's really wonderful. Thank you very much, and thank you for moderating for us. That was a really great night. We'll recreate it at some point, won't we?
I know. Anytime. It was really fascinating, and thank you again for these comments. And I'm sure we will be seeing each other again. Hopefully soon. Next time I stop by in the Miami area, that will be really awesome to stop by for a quick chat.
Thank you, Sergio, and thank you for your time today too.
Absolutely. Well, with this, I want to thank you both again, Tim and Suzanne. Thanks again for being with us. I want to thank all our listeners today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.